you to tonight's community forum. Before we get started, I'd like to point out several important people who joined us this evening, beginning with our Board of Education President, Holly Hurst. Rodney Washburn, where did Rodney go? He's hiding in the back. He's our Board of Education Vice President. Mary Kilsheimer, also a board member. Missy Krasinski, board member. And Kent Zimmerman, board member. It's good to see a lot of staff is in the crowd this evening, a lot of administrators. Also joining us, Eric Beavers, our treasurer, off to the side. Eric will be speaking this evening as well. I don't see Jerry Clark from SHP, but I think he's going to be joining us. Jerry's a consultant with SHP, and he's a recovering former superintendent of the schools and retired. Jeff Parker, who's in the back, who will be facilitating tonight's presentation, also from SHP. He's a director of visioning. And Todd Thackeray, who's sitting in the back. Todd, you can stand and wave. Also from SHP, and he's the VP of Architecture. So we're here tonight because our strategic plan calls us to develop a master facility plan. So we will begin a very important process that will give us direction for the future of our facilities. There's probably some in the crowd this evening that are saying we know exactly what we're going to do and probably go through with this process and push a levy. I'm sure that that thought is out there, so I want to start this process by saying that's not true. We actually have no idea where this is going to go. That's not a great thing to say. Daryl, please don't put in the headline in the paper, school district has no clue what they're doing. Because the truth of it is, we do know what the needs are of the district. We know what the wants are. Some of those nice to have items are, but what we don't know and what we're going to find through this process is all of those things combined with the expectation and the values of the community as far as the facilities are concerned. And that's why we're here tonight. So just to let you know, the facilities pillar of the strategic plan called directly for 4 points. One was to work with our selected architect to conduct a comprehensive facilities assessment for each building in the district, including our student activity facilities. That assessment was done last year, but I will say it's ongoing, because things change, conditions of equipment, changes of the physical operations of the district change. So that will be an ongoing process, but we do have numbers to start with. The next point is to facilitate a community engagement process for facility visioning for student learning and activity spaces to determine community priorities. That starts this evening. The product of this will be a 5 to 10 year master facility plan for all of our buildings, our learning spaces, and student activity complexes of the district based upon the process that we begin tonight. And then after that, or at some point during this, based upon the master plan for the future facilities, there's a bullet point to evaluate the need for a district permanent improvement fund, which could result in a levy. And Eric Beavers, our esteemed treasurer, is here tonight to kind of talk a little bit about why that was included in this plan.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me? Because I prefer not to use that. It'd be better for you all because I tend to get too close. Thank you for coming this evening. I appreciate your attendance. So I did want to share a little bit about the Permanent Improvement Fund and the portion of that of the strategic plan and its importance. Obviously, as we assess our buildings and determine the need that we have for a 5 to 10 year need, we obviously have a lot of burden in our general fund. If we can pull those funds out from the general fund and have it designated for our buildings, that is a great asset to have, and it also helps us when we were in the financial distress that we were in, that certain things don't get let go because we don't have the financial means to take care of them, including our buildings, including our buses, and so forth. So we have not had a lot of conversations, one with the board or with the Financial Advisory Committee at this point. We are going to start down that path very shortly, but I did want to have these meetings start to see where the outcome is going to be to determine how soon you may be expecting a permanent improvement levy, okay? As it was pointed out in the strategic plan, it is of importance. People do see the financial value and the responsibility of having that for the district. So that is one goal that we do have in mind, and it was one that had to be addressed within the first 5 years of the strategic plan. So we are in the second year of implementation, so I believe we're right on target for that. There's a number of factors that are impacting the ability to have those conversations. One is this process. This is the major factor. The second one is the fact of our state funding formula. As you know, you've probably seen me talk about that. You've probably seen articles. While we're not more than 18% reliant on state funding, that does become our carryover balance, and it does go into our total revenue. But more importantly, we've had an ever-changing formula where for our district, we've not been on the better end of the stick when it comes to the end result of the biennium budgets that being imposed or on any new formulas. There has been a new state formula that's been in the works for over a year now, and it has some of the most positive word going on right now because they have pulled in the expertise of, believe it or not, school leaders. Superintendents and treasurers have been working with our state legislators on a responsible and accountable state funding formula. So we're hoping to see that coming unveiled here in the next couple of months because the new state biennium budget has to be approved and effective July 1st. So I'm kind of waiting for the outcome of that to see where we're going to be at, how we're going to be, what our benefits are going to be from that. With the legislation, it's not always just about the formula. Legislation drives a lot more dollars than what you would think. And it doesn't just affect our expenses, it affects the revenue sources as well. It's amazing how much they bury in the legislation that impacts the dollars either coming to us or going away from us. And again, in the last 5 biennium budgets or 10 years, we've had a very significant loss, as well as being to the part that we are a capped district. So at one point, we were $3 million capped. The state owed us $3 million in its formula, and we are now down to just under $1 million. So they're taking those funds from us and funding other districts to meet their financial obligations. So those are a number of the criteria that are impacting us, and just that's led into factor for me in holding off those conversations at this point. So I just wanted to share that with you moving forward. There'll be more information coming out on that. We'll have more community forums. Glad you're here. So I appreciate your interest, and thanks for all you do to support our district.
Thank you, Eric. So tonight's the first of 3 community forums. I was hoping that we'd have every seat filled this evening, but we're going to keep pushing forward, and hopefully we get more people as the rest of the forums go along. We have 2 more after tonight. We have 4 educational vision committee team meetings. We have 5 community advisory team meetings, and through those 2 committees, we've sent out probably about 150 invites. So we're hoping for a good blend of community, staff, business, parents, non-parents, folks who don't have students in the school district, trying to get as broad of a base as we possibly can, so as many voices can be heard and can help inform this process. And then we also have 10 to 12 steering committees that will happen over the course of this process, which takes us into November of next school year, at the end of which we hope to have that roadmap or that master facilities plan that will guide us into the future and help us to direct our funds and our priorities to spend the money that we have at our disposal in the best way that we can, that meets the values and the expectations of the community, but also, which I think is one of the neatest parts of this process, is the educational visioning piece, to kind of take a look. So the educational visioning and the community advisory meetings will be going on kind of concurrently, and will cross over and inform each other's processes. But both will have tasks of looking at things in a little bit different manner. So we're excited about this. We're excited that this is going to be done. We've never done this before as far as this type of a process is concerned. We're starting off from the very onset of this, in a very transparent way, trying to get as much feedback from the community as possible. And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out, we have a couple students sitting back there. We've also invited students to be a part of our community advisory team and our educational visioning team as well. So we're excited to have them. Mr. Williamson, I'm glad you guys are keeping him in line over there. So appreciate your attendance here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Parker from SHP. We appreciate your attendance tonight. Look forward to working with you throughout this process.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. It's hard to come inside on a sunny winter evening, right? So
sorry to steal your thunder so early. So there are index cards here. If you have questions or comments or anything you want, we'll have time throughout to interject and have question and answers. But if you want to write those down, administrators around the room will have those. We'll give those to you, write them down, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation.
Very good. Can you all hear me okay? All right. If I start to fade, throw something at me and I'll try to speak up or use the mic. As Mr. O'Leary mentioned, we're going to have a Q&A period at the end of the evening. But also, if there's anything that's on screen or that you're hearing me say that you're just struggling to come to grips with, ask the question, raise your hand. I'd rather address it sooner than later so that we can keep everyone together as we move through the information tonight, okay? All right, very good. So let's get moving. I moved too quick. A master plan. Google says that it's a noun, a comprehensive or far-reaching plan of action. Should be no surprise there. For our purposes, it's a tool to consider current and anticipated facility needs and develop solutions to address them. All right, so that's kind of what we mean when we talk about master plans. For us, a good master plan is like a three-legged stool. It has to be three things equally well. It has to be educationally appropriate. It has to be good for teaching and learning. Okay, that's what schools are about. It has to be fiscally responsible, as Mr. Beavers mentioned, and it finally has to be community supported. If the community doesn't support it, it doesn't stand either. Okay, so we believe that these are the three keys to a successful master plan. We talked a little bit about the timeline and the process and the parts of the process that we're enlisting here. We are, oops, I've got a new clicker, so bear with me. It's like driver's ed for clickers. So we are up here at the top, very top of the columns here, our first community forum, okay? We are meeting here tonight basically to paint a picture of where the district is today from a facility standpoint. And we're gonna ask for some feedback from you all later. That information will feed into this community advisory team. And that is a standing group, and we're going to meet with them several times over the course of this process to begin to work through difficult issues and challenges. It's a standing committee because we want to be able to build on the conversation, right? We don't want to have to bring everyone up to speed each time. We can get a lot more done and get a lot deeper into the process with the standing committee. They're going to meet several times over the process. The educational visioning team, that's another group. They'll be meeting parallel to the advisory team. So we're seeing a lot of movement in teaching and learning. Learning is changing. The tools that our students need are growing. They're getting broader. No longer is it just about the 3 R's. It's about other things too, right? So when I went to school, it looks different than what our students need today, all right? So that team is going to really dig into what are the trends occurring in education, what does that mean to Vandalia-Butler schools, how do we react to that as a community, and then what does that imply for our facilities, okay? Simple enough? Great. This should look familiar, right? I think we are right down here. Bristol High School, you're the center of the back, Matt, Devitt, Telke, Morton, Smith. Just for a snapshot of the district. This is how the district is organized from a grade level standpoint. The vertical columns represent grades, and the white boxes represent the buildings that serve those grades. You'll see that. So you can see that Devitt has pre-K and K through third. Helke has K through third. Smith, the building we're in, is a 4-5 building. Morton, 6, 7, 8, and of course the Butler High School. So this is historical enrollment in the district, the last 5 years. You can see there was a bit of a dip from 16 to 17, but it's stabilized and kind of settled out. So that's, if we're looking at trends, that's what we would base it on. The district is also working with a couple consultants on projecting what the future enrollment will be, so that advisory team will have the benefit of that information as we have those conversations. Is that surprising to anybody? About what you'd expect, maybe? I will say across the state we're seeing a pretty steady decline. Very few districts are growing in the state. So this is actually a little more stable than what we might expect to see. All right, I'm going to talk, as I said, I want to give you kind of a snapshot of the district from a facility standpoint. So we're going to kind of peel back the curtain on each of the campuses and begin to understand where they are and what their assets and liabilities might be. Butler High School, originally built in 1965 with a major addition and renovation in 2012. 266,000 square feet for a 9 through 12 building, nice sized building. Current enrollment is 9980, and it has a capacity, it was designed for a capacity of 1,200 students. It sits on almost 24 acres, and Superintendent O'Leary mentioned the facility plan. There's a 5- and a 10-year facility maintenance plan. And we like to think of that as what is it going to keep, what is it going to take to keep these buildings warm, safe, and dry, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean cool, it's just warm, safe, and dry. It doesn't say anything about 21st century learning, it's just warm, safe, and dry, okay? So to keep it warm, safe, and dry over the next 5 years, that's the kind of money that the district should anticipate investing in this building. And I will say this number is adjusted for inflation over those 5 years, all right? That makes sense? Yes, sir.
The building's been built since 1965. We have historical data of how much it's cost to maintain it. Why would you use that number instead of the warm, safe, and dry number?
Because the warm, safe, and dry number is based on actual needs. So it knows when the roof replacements are going to need to occur. It knows when the paving replacements are going to need to occur. So it's, you could do it from you could extrapolate those values. And that might be a good way to kind of cross-check these numbers.
To point out, real
Based on
quick,
reality.
that 65 it's we call it the 64 wing. So it was a small wing of the high school. 86 was more of the SAC related performing arts theater, and then the 2012 is really the rest of Butler High School. So there's a minimal amount that was addressed though, from a roofing standpoint and some of those things in the 2012 construction.
All right. Move on to Morton. Built in 2012, 102,000 square feet, 6th through 8th grades. Current enrollment versus capacity, currently it's 681 kids. That's like days ago, I think. And it was designed for a capacity of 675, so it's just a buzz over. And it sits on 9.5 acres. Being a newer building and smaller than the Big Brother, it's almost $600,000 over the next 5 years for maintenance of that building. Smith Middle School, which I really wrestled with. I didn't understand middle school, and Superintendent O'Leary had to walk me through that. So this is a 4th and 5th grade building. Let's see, built in 1969, just over 61,000 square feet. A capacity of 450, a current enrollment, I'm sorry, of 456 versus a capacity of 406. So it's a little heavy on kids. But you guys are getting it done, and doing it well. It sits on an unusually large parcel, almost 85 acres. Okay. And to my knowledge, is undeveloped back there. I think it's been a land lab in years prior. Anyhow, and for maintenance over the next 5 years, we're estimating $4 million to keep it warm, safe, and dry. Okay. That's largely driven by the age of this building, you know, the plexiglass windows and that sort of stuff that are failing. We're beginning to. Devon Elementary, built in 1957, with an addition in 64, 42,000 square feet, grades pre-K through third. Current enrollment of 530 versus a capacity of 368. Now, don't be alarmed. That 530 includes the half-day preschool and kindergarten, okay? So, but a reality to bear in mind is that as the state moves toward full-day kindergarten, that creates capacity or demand, I should say, in that building that it isn't currently meeting. Okay? So as the state moves that way, these numbers will, it may actually look that severe. Okay? That's not the case today. Sits on 11 acres and $4.3 million to keep it warm, safe, and dry. All right? Everyone hear me okay? Doing all right? And finally, Helke, built in 1969, open classroom concept. I walked through that the other day, and it's a pretty cool little school. But I don't have to teach in it, so I don't have any idea what it's like to teach in it. It's just felt good. Kindergarten through third grade, it has a capacity of current enrollment of 406 and a capacity of 350. And that half-day kindergarten conversation, that applies here as well. All right. So 10.5 acres and just under $2 million over the next 5 years. All right. That makes sense. I realize it's a very high level. Okay.
Jeff, do you mind kind of talking about what that capacity piece means?
Sure.
We do have the fire chief here in the house tonight.
Yep.
Hopefully he's not going to arrest me. Just want to put you at ease.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Ron. Thank you. So when I talk about capacity of a school building, that is calculated by the Ohio School Facility Commission, not by your local building department or fire chief. Right? So it's not a code-driven thing. It's not how many people can I put in here and get out safely. It's not about life safety. It's more about how many kids can we actually educate in this building properly. All right. So all those capacity numbers, that's what that's about. All right. Sorry, I should have covered that earlier. All right. So any questions on that content? Yes.
So is that number based on square footage of the school then?
The capacity?
Yeah.
Yes, it takes the square footage of the building, and it also takes the number of teaching stations in the building and drives that. Yep. Other questions? All right. So as I mentioned, part of what we want to do tonight is kind of get your reaction to some of this information, all right? And then the community advisory team is going to use that as a baseline for how the community feels about the facilities. So with that being said, I would invite you, if you know what this is, it's a QR code, pull out your phone, and go to this website. You can take a photograph of this, and and your phone will direct you to it. Or if you'd rather, you can type in this web address, okay? You should get a screen that looks something like this. If you would like a loaner device from the district, they have those available also. So if you need to borrow a device, you're welcome to that as well. In fact, raise your hand or throw a flag if you need a loaner. So again, you should get a screen that looks kind of blue screen. You might have a weird question on there. Yeah, just one question, yep. So, are we getting there? Give me a nod if we're getting there. Okay. Anyone still wrestling with it? Anyone need one? Everyone good? Everyone's got a device that wants one? You, everyone.
Is everybody good?
Not yet, just leave it.
Is it kidding?
Get there. So give me a thumbs up if we're there, if we're ready. Almost. Okay, you tell me when you're ready, okay? I'm gonna have to start singing and dancing.
That's okay, the superintendent's still trying to get there too.
I got it.
All right.
You got it?
Got it? All right. We're all in? All right, so here we go. Are we still trying to get there?
I was there.
You're there? Now you're not? All right.
I know, I was there and I was like,
All right, folks, you ready? All right, here we go. First, this is just a test question, okay? What's your favorite pizza topping? Vote now. Just tap it, tap your favorite, and it should pop up on the screen. And if you want to change your response, if you scroll down at the bottom of your screen, you can change your response also. Okay? Yes? I do. Yeah. My license and my credit card are in that, so I. All right, so you see how it works? And you can see your responses impacting the numbers, right? Okay. Any educators use something like this in your classrooms? A little bit? A little bit? Okay. Awesome. All right, so the first question. Which best describes your current relationship to the district? Best describes your current relationship. All right.
Everybody voted?
Students in? I like the students here, that's good. We've got a grandparent, a resident and a grandparent here, that's good too. Some business folks, that's awesome, very good. All right, ready? We're gonna move ahead. Next question. If you have children or grandchildren in the district, what buildings do they attend currently? Yep. Yep. It means no one has children at those buildings. Correct. Yep. Very good. Y'all in? I don't want to drag this on, but I want to give you time to respond. All right, so we'll go ahead and move to the next one. How long have you lived in the district? Right. Almost a third of you have been here over 20 years. Over. Just as a show of hands, who's been here more than 40 years?
40 exactly.
All right, very good.
Let's count college.
We need like prizes for you. All right, we'll move on. How old are you? So a lot of you in the 30 to 50 range. Got some youngsters here. Under 18.
Oh, yeah. No. What's yours?
Should get you taken care of. All right, we'll move on to the next question. It's a little more personal. What's your weight?
Oh, you mean.
No, not really. So this is more of just kind of how do you feel about the district? Compared to nearby districts, how would you rate the condition of our school buildings? Buildings only. This is not about the quality of the education. It's not about whether or not you like the biology teacher. We'll get there. From a district-wide perspective, though. It's kind of like watching a horse race. Cheering for you.
They're off my face.
All right. Everybody in? Next question. Which word best describes the condition of Emmett Elementary School? Good, average, below average?
Mr. Mark, you're not supposed to.
It makes no difference. We teach kids.
It's a good point. The point was maybe we should add a response that says like, I don't know, right? But the intent of this is to really gauge the community perspective. So even if the community doesn't know, they're going to make a judgment, right? So that's why we're kind of formatting it this way. Yep. I can't tell on the screen, but didn't I back up to you? I can tell you that. The question was, how many people are actually voting?
Yeah, that's what I was
Can we tell that? So,
exactly misleading.
yeah, I can't tell you it on this screen, but in the report that we'll generate from this, we'll know exactly how many responses you had. Yep.
Responses.
Sure. Yeah, we'll put the presentation content on the web as well, and we'll also initiate a survey, so you can send your friends to come take the survey as well. Okay. All right, next one. How about Helke? condition of Smith? Middle. I will say, this is not an indictment on like your facilities team, right? It's just the reality of, right? So I see Marcus back in the back wiping his eyes every once in a while. So I just want to give him a shout out, you know, a building with this much carpet, not smelling funky when you walk in, that's a real task. So well done. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Morton Middle School. Feel pretty good about Morton. Feeling better about Morton. All right, last but certainly not least, Butler High School. Everyone got it? No? So I'm going to back up and I'm going to advance, so give me just a moment here. Play that in my phone. Or did I just wreck it all? So everyone's got this question on their phone? Okay, all right. All right, a few more questions. Oh, my goodness. Yep. Which school building is in the best condition? Only pick one. All right. No Helke's gaining. All right. Next question. Which is in the worst condition? So the elementaries. Maybe because it's not air conditioned. Question was, why do you all hate that?
Because it's hot in the summertime.
Because it's hot.
It's hotter than school begins, yes it is.
Yeah. All right, very good. Got another one for you. So rank them according to their condition. Top being the best, bottom being worst. You can drag these up and down on your phone, okay? Everyone see how that works? So drag the best building to the top, and so forth.
Click on it and then arrow.
Okay. Is everyone getting the functionality of that? Click on the button. If you're struggling, we could get the 18th high school students to do some tutoring. So it aligns directly with what we saw on the previous slide, doesn't it? All right, next question. So this is called a word cloud. I'm asking you, what aspects of our school district do you take the most pride in? Give me one-word answers. You can hyphenate it if you need to. But what we'll see here is the answers they get, the greater number of responses will get larger as they appear on the screen. All right. In general, yep, this is kind of overall district. You can see community is getting a lot of support in this. And you can give me up to 3 answers on here. Culture, that's a good one. Educators. Student-centered. Leadership. Faculty, staff. 3 R's. Quality. Success. Work. What is anywhere? What does that mean? I'm curious to know what that means. If you'd said that, come up after the topic. I'm curious to know what that means. All right, citizenship. Very good. Y'all still typing? Good. All right, commitment. Safe. History. That's good stuff. Yeah. Staff, teachers, faculty. Very good. All right, the next question. What are your aspirations or hopes for the district? Just like the last one, just one word at a time, please. You can give me up to 3 responses. You can hyphenate it if you want.
That's me. Everybody wants to be like me, that's me.
Yeah, can we get all your names up there?
Yeah, you can throw it all.
Fiscal responsibility.
What are your other options?
And I see all day kindergarten, all day kindergarten. Parent involvement. Growth and grow. Update. A on report card. Responsible. Very good. All right. So that's the end of the audience response period. You can put your phones away, or you can check Facebook. So this is the timeline, just to remind you all of the process. Well, we wanted to really take a moment and open the floor for questions. If you have a question on a 3x5 card that you'd like us to mention, raise your hand and we'll come get those. The next, we have 2 upcoming forums, one in June at Demet and one in October at Helke. So put those on your calendars, and we'd love it if you'd tweet those out and post those to let your friends and neighbors know also.
Yes.
So, are people in this group, are we going to updated, like, some of the stuff might be on an email. So it's switching to that.
Yeah, that's why we selected the email addresses as another way of trying to stay informed with individuals. If there's questions or so.
Anybody needs a card, just raise your hand. Several people.
As you were thinking of questions, I'm going to read some questions as they come forward. So the first question was, can you please discuss plans for all-day kindergarten? Yes. So we will be more than likely the only district in Montgomery County in, I would say, the next 5 years for sure, that won't have either plans for or already an all-day kindergarten program in place. We're one of 3 right now. It's us, Centerville, and Miami. And I know Centerville's been looking at it for a number of years. There's a couple things they're waiting on before they move forward. But I really believe that it's definitely inevitable that we'll be the last district in the county to offer it. We know parents want it. We would love to offer it. Space is obviously the biggest consideration when it comes down to that. As Jeff showed the slides with the current enrollments, Demet, when you saw 534 students and the capacity of whatever it was, I was a little afraid Chad was going to take me out in cuffs for being so far above capacity. But with the preschool and kindergarten, and one of the slides showed one of the concerns that we have is the increased numbers or class sizes in our elementary buildings at Demet and Pelkey. We have pockets of high classroom sizes as well as here at Smith. So we're trying to address those. One of the ways that we're trying to do that is with preschool. Preschool has 4 classrooms, 8 sections, morning and afternoon. Obviously, we would absolutely love to increase that because Lisa Hildebrand, our Director of Pupil Services, has overseen preschool for a number of years, and Shallon, who now has taken on those reins, they know that when we open up registration for preschool, we shut it off within like 2 or 3 days.
An hour.
An hour. I didn't want to be so dramatic. But it is true because we serve typically developing students and students with disabilities in our preschool model. So our typically developing student openings, those fill up within hours. So then we have to keep the rest of those openings for our students with disabilities. But we would love to offer more than what we're able to do there. The space is the biggest obstacle and barrier. It's the same thing with all day kindergarten. We just don't have the space for it. Currently, I will say this publicly, we are looking for space to possibly rent out to house our preschool program at a different location so that we can find more classroom space to offset our high numbers in our elementary classrooms. We can't just add a teacher and ask them to teach in the common space or in the cafeteria in our elementaries because we don't have the space to do so. So if we were able to do that, we would be able to open up 4 classrooms from Demet. We would more than likely be looking at some programs possibly to shift over from Helke to Demet in that regard, so we can balance out the numbers of classroom sizes that are open. But we're currently undertaking that. Space is the biggest issue. But from an educational standpoint, the half-day kindergarten offerings that we have, I feel is going to put us behind the 8 ball a little bit in that regard, especially in the county, concerning we're one of 3 districts right now that don't offer it. And probably in 3 to 5 years, we'll be the only district. So that's a definite weakness.
Okay, we have a question. Do you foresee the state further capping funding over the next 5 to 10 years? And has that been calculated in? I do not see that being capped any worse than what we are currently. As I mentioned earlier, with the new formula that's in the works, that's going to be the true sign though. So what I have factored into the 5-year forecast is it's been flatlined. So what I forecasted for this year is what I forecasted for the next following 4 years. So I'm not projecting that to change at all. So the proof is going to be in the pudding with this new formula. So I'm hoping we've hit rock bottom, to be quite honest. Okay.
Eric and I will address this one together. So the question is, what has been the impact of closing Merlin Heights in terms of cost avoidance? It's a great question. So obviously, it's one less building to maintain. Merlin, obviously, we went through a demolition process, abatement and demolition process last year. It was a hard one for me because that's where I started off as a teacher in the district. But most people don't know that there was like 400,000 pounds, or what was the number, Marcus, of water, standing water on the roof. It was about to be named the Great Lake.
There were geese hiding on top of the building.
Yeah, there was a
Did you
great.
shoot them down?
No, but I'd seen my office.
There was a great lake on the roof at Merlin Heights. So in order to keep that building open and operate from it was going to take substantial costs in construction. Actually, it was discussed in the 2010 through 2012 construction process in the district as being one of the buildings that would receive renovations. Merlin was going to go through the same renovations that Demet did as far as the roof was concerned, the windows, the flooring, the lighting, but there was so much asbestos in that building to be able to remove all of that and then go through the renovation process, and the way that the windows basically went from ground to the roof just made it terribly cost prohibitive. So, not having to go through all of that, not having to operate that building, obviously there's less staffing and everything else involved in that. From a cost avoidance, those are where big costs.
The building was closed a couple of years before I even came on board, but what was shared with me in the when I first started, it was close to about $2.5 million for all expenses. Just keeping it for the last couple of years before the building was demolished, we were spending about 12 grand just in insurances and so forth. So now we're well under $1,000 just for what we have right now. So
Does that answer that question? Any other questions about Merlin since we're talking about it?
What is your goal with that property?
So the goal of the property is, that's a good question too. We've been talking at nauseum about that. So we're at the point right now where we're looking at the viability and studying the viability of either doing a land lease, to a tenant who may want to have the property for 20 years or whatever. There's a lot that goes into that. It would be a steady income stream for the district. It would allow the board, in the future boards to retain ownership of the property for future use. Liability isn't there based off of the study that we're undertaking. We're also considering just the public auction in the sale of the property. So there's still more to come on that. We've been talking a lot about it over the last 2 years for sure. But it's a big decision, and one that shouldn't be taken lightly. Again, looking into the future.
Is there any restrictions because of the asbestos, like for sale or anything, like for future sales for the ground?
No, that was all
That was all
removed and
taken
taken care of in the demolition. Any other index cards or other questions?
How many acres is that?
Merlin's about 15.
15.
15. It's about the same as Demet.
Are you going to consider that as part of the overview that you have? I noticed you include that 50 acres.
As far as property is concerned, yes. Now, there is a portion of that, that acreage that there was once a pond or whatever that was back there as part of the land lab. So I don't know how viable that would be for future construction. services. Other questions? And we'll stay here all night too if you want to talk privately.
How was, Eric, this might be for you, how was Stebbins and Huber, how were those schools financed? They got the top of the halls, how'd that come about?
I don't know right offhand, but I believe their state share portion, the amount that was being funded by the state, was much higher than us for building
And
purposes.
then where do we rank, I think about 10 years ago, I saw where us, Oakwood, Centerville, got the least amount for Huber. Where are we now?
We're at the bottom of those three still.
Why is that?
Because we are considered a wealthy district, because of our valuation.
Now, is there reassessment going to take place? Don't we have like various sections, housing and things like that?
We have some, but we still have a good valuation, a good tax base. And how the state calculates it all, we're still considered a very wealthy
So
district.
when was the last time that was calculated?
The state looks at it every year, but they base it upon the valuation that's done by the county auditor, and that was done last year. And they're in the midst of a new one that's going to be coming out in 2021. So that's already under the works already, so.
How does our village compare, the village rate, actual village rate compared to surrounding schools? High, low?
Could you repeat the question?
He wanted to know, how does our millage rate compare to other surrounding districts? Ours right now is a little lower than some because of our valuation and because of what we want to offer and what some of those other districts want to offer as well. The fact that Oakwood is considered to be a poorer district than us, but they also want to provide more opportunities in programming, their millage is much higher because they put it on, because they want to have this type of programming, same as what's going on in Centerville. Huber is in a unique situation that they've had many difficulties passing levies just for basic operations because they've seen so many cuts in their funding. Yes.
So if you get, let's say you've been getting like school of excellence and all that stuff, is that unheard of, or is that in that funding formula?
There are a few things that are factored in, but not much. There's not much they don't give you much money for that, for those calculations. But obviously, it's what we strive for. Pardon?
There's no reward for that.
There's no reward for it, but, the reward is what our students get in those scholarships, which we have one of the highest amounts in this area. Very proud of that fact and of our students.
Other questions? I have great teacher wait tonight. Seeing none, Jeff has highlighted the next forums. Again, we'll keep drumming the information and getting it out there to get more people, more representation from the community. The good thing is that those who are not able to be in attendance this evening, we will be able to collect the same information that we collected from you all tonight because we want more information than just what was presented here. This will guide us as we go into the community advisory team. And then, like I said, the education visioning team will be kind of working on their own, crossing over with the community advisory as we go through.
Just let me add quickly, at the forum coming up in June, as we mentioned, the advisory team will be meeting next several months. The educational visioning team will be meeting next several months. So at that June forum, it's kind of a report out of all of that work. So you guys will have the chance to see what those teams are saying, to hear it, and to react similarly to how you did tonight.
In addition, I may have more information pertaining to how the state, with the new state formula funding and the next biennial budget as well. So please feel free to attend another one, and please feel free to spread the word. We are here for you, so please, it's very important that we get the community's input.
That being said, we'll stay up here if you want to ask questions of us individually on your way out. Otherwise, thanks for coming tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.